Romeo and Juliette. Background.
Romeo and Juliette was written by Charles Gounod and it was first performed in the Théâtre Lyrique in 1867 in the city of Paris. It is based off the Shakespeare play Romeo and Juliet and is written in 5 acts. It comes from the same composer who also wrote Faust.
Romeo is played by Italian tenor Vittorio Grigolo. He has played countless roles at the Met, including Rodolfo in La Bohème and Werther in Werther. We thought that he was the perfect person to play Romeo because he had an unmatchable energy on stage and he was also really convincing as acting as a young kid. His voice was absolutely incredible. The first thing I noticed about it was just how beautiful it was and how versatile it was with the emotion that he would put into it based on what Romeo was going through at that time. I really liked how it was level in all of his registers and especially how beautiful and strong it was in the top. I think acting-wise, he was the glue that kind of held the show together based on just Romeo's character and how he is involved in a lot of the main conflict. And I really liked how I could see the different changes in his face and his body based on what was happening, like how happy he was with Juliette or how angry he was when Mercutio was killed. And I also liked how he integrated that into his voice. So it really seemed like a complete package. Juliette was played by German coloratura soprano Diana Domrau. This was her first time taking on the role of Juliette, and she can also be seen this season at the Met playing the role of Elvira in I Puritani. I think for her first run of playing Juliette, she was spectacular. One of our favorite parts of her performance was her ability to maneuver around as a young girl and use that in not only her tone when singing, but in her acting as well. Those costumes could not have been easy to move around in, but she did it effortlessly, and it was a very convincing performance. We were very impressed with her vocal interpretation of the role, and we were amazed with how effortless she made those high, difficult arias sound for the role of Juliette. We also really loved how she interacted with everyone else on the stage. Whether it be a chorus member or another lead, she did it with such conviction that it made the universe seem like a real place. She really made us want to root for Juliette, and she really made the character so outstanding.
Stefano! French mezzo Virginie Varese played my favorite character, Stefano. This is one of my favorite characters because I'm also a mezzo and I sing a lot of pants roles at school. Coming from experience, it's very hard to play a boy, but Virginie Varese was able to take the energy that comes from playing a prepubescent teenager and was able to funnel it into her singing to create a clear, bright sound and something with a lot of energy that you don't usually see on stage. Even though she only sings one aria and a couple lines of recitative, she still had one of the most vibrant and colorful voices on the stage that day. Virginie Varese, let's get married? Gertrude is played by Diana Montague, or Montague, an English mezzo-soprano. Montague was very comfortable and experienced with acting on stage. I especially liked the part where she was joking around with the guys after the balcony scene. She was a great singer, but her acting really stood out to me.
Tybalt!
My favorite character, the role of Tybalt, was played by tenor Diego Silva. He made his Met premiere in this role. I was super excited to see this character in the opera version because he is my favorite character in the stage play because he is so dynamic and dramatic, and I definitely was not disappointed by Silva's performance. His voice really stood out amongst the cast due to his fluttery vibrato and tone. Without his great performance as the antagonist really bringing the plot together, it wouldn't have been such a dramatic story. Not to mention, he's a great stage fighter and his death scene was really convincing.
Mercutio!
The role of Romeo's best friend, Mercutio, was played by Canadian baritone Elliot Madore, and I loved how he brought the character of Mercutio to life. His performance was electric, and we really thought that he set a great precedent for the rest of the show with his first aria. We really liked how he stayed in tune with his character and how whether he was the main focus of the scene or simply in the background, you could always see Mercutio in action. His voice was very, very strong, it cut through the orchestra, and we loved how much emotion he was able to show within his voice.
Friar Laurent was played by Russian bass Mikhail Petrenko. He will also be seen as Don Basilio in Barber of Seville. He also follows me on Instagram. Considering this character is very reserved, I thought that Mr. Petrenko wouldn't be able to do much, but in the end, he was still able to bring forth a character that portrayed honesty, fear, and contempt. 10 out of 10, 2 thumbs up for Mikhail Petrenko.
Capulet!
Laurent Naury is a French-based baritone who has also sung the role of Sharpless in Madame Butterfly. His voice was really strong, and I thought he acted really well. He was really engaged with all the other characters at all times during the show, and you could really tell he knew what he was doing. Naury had easy movement throughout the registers of his obviously strong bass baritone voice. I could really sense the emotion in his voice, especially the contrast from the beginning when he was happy at the ball and the end after Tybalt had died.
Paris. Count Paris was played by American bass baritone David Crawford.
He's making a lot of appearances at the Met this year, including playing the Sergeant in Manon Lescaut.
He had a really electric stage presence, and even though Count Paris may have not been the biggest character on stage, he really stole a lot of attention from everyone else. I loved watching him in big ensemble scenes, just doing his thing, like petting the fur. Chorus, chorus! The chorus in this production of Romeo and Juliet was spectacular. I always love seeing how choristers put on their different personas, and even though they're all singing the same music, everyone is completely different. I really liked how they interacted with the principal cast, and I liked how they were all up for anything, like dancing or fighting. Conductor! The Metropolitan Orchestra was conducted by Maestro Gianandrea Nocera. I think it was evident that Maestro knew what he was doing through his interview at the intermission. He really valued the singers as well as the orchestral music kind of as 2 separate entities, but they work together so well to make the story that much more real and to make the listener feel so much emotion.
This production was directed by Bartlett Sher. He has recently directed Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway and has also done productions of Romeo and Juliet in the past. I really liked how they kept the set the same throughout the performance and only changed parts of it to fit the scene, like the tombstones and the sheep. I think it fit the time period of Romeo and Juliet really well, because whenever I picture Romeo and Juliet, that's the kind of city I picture. And I also really liked how it was grayscale. I also really liked how the set was interactive and the characters were able to climb on it. It really made the performance special.
Costumes! The costume designer for this show was Catherine Zuber. I absolutely loved the costumes in this production. I really liked how she made it grayscale except for some of the main characters, and I thought that the costumes really fit the time period. My personal favorite was the first dress that Juliette wore just because it was such a bright color. She really stood out right when she came on, and I really liked how it moved and how graceful it looked 100% of the time.
You fool! You'll never get me!
Oh no! How dare you!